Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
Good Lord.
Are we tired of that yet? Y'all tired of Tiger King references yet?
That shit was funny.
It was funny. Sorry, y'all. We just being goofy. Anywho, welcome to episode 2 of the Blood Sisterz podcast. Yes. Thank you for joining us and still rocking with us thus far. I am joined once again by my 2 co-hosts, Christina and Rachel. How you ladies doing?
Fine.
Good, great, grand, wonderful.
Great and wonderful.
Yes.
Oh, you excited over there.
Yes.
I know that's right. I am happy to be here with you ladies yet again. But before we continue, please like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube and Facebook pages. You can find us under the name Blood Sisterz with a Z. Sisterz. I think we're finally set on that name, so no fear, it will not be changing. Now, this week, we are discussing one of America's most notorious serial killers and cannibals. I will say, warning, this episode does contain graphic details about the murders of children by a very sick individual. So it may be difficult for some of our listeners, just giving you a heads up. Also, I will mention, for those of you looking forward to our Emmy Award-winning reenactments, there will be none this week. There will be no visual. All poo. All right? Not this week, but next week we back out there. I'm throwing it out there, okay? Now, this week we are discussing Albert Fish, born Hamilton Frank Howard. As I said, he was an American serial killer, child rapist, and cannibal. Some of the nicknames that he went by:
The Gray Man was the most popular one.
The Boogeyman.
yes,
The Boogeyman, yes.
the Brooklyn Vampire,
The Werewolf of Wisteria.
And a sick individual, if you just ask me.
okay, and one of my favorite, the Moon Maniac. You guys seen that one? I think I'm gonna get a tattoo that say that. Not in honor of him, of course, but I just thought, damn it. All right, let's switch it.
I am also a moon maniac, but not in the pedophile way.
Yes, exactly.
The cannibalistic way of Albert Fish.
There it is. And these are all very fitting names for Fishy, who was a frail, quiet, more mustache than face, and extremely dangerous man. We was gonna call him Fishy.
Here, Fishy.
Here, Fishy.
Childhood?
Yeah.
All right, let's get started in this sick, twisted adventure. Born May 19th, 1870 in Washington, D.C. Born with the name Hamilton Howard Fish. He was apparently named after an ancestor who was a governor of New York in the 1850s.
Oh, wow.
And this ancestor also served as a Secretary of State for the Ulysses S. Grant administration. So he came from a very interesting family with a lot of different backgrounds. His father, Randall Fish, was 75 years old when he was born. And his mother, Ellen Fish, was 43 years younger. So she was 32. Woof.
Girl, bye.
He wasn't no sugar daddy.
Nuh-uh.
He wasn't no sugar daddy.
He ain't even had no more sugar in his tank at that point.
I mean, technically he did. He had fish.
He had
That's true. He used a little powdered sugar.
He
That's
had
true.
something.
That's
He
true.
had something.
A little powdered sugar.
Now, apparently, mental illness ran in the family. Mom suffered from visual and auditory hallucinations. The brother was said to have been in an asylum for some time. His sister was diagnosed with a mental affliction. That was all I was able to find. I didn't find anything else regarding her. And they also had an uncle who was diagnosed with mania and had religious psychosis. So, you can definitely say it ran in the family, but had a lot more happen in his life, as we will see, that will kind of lead into his ultimate madness or something, whatever it's called. Yes. So his father died when he was just 5 years old, so his dad was 80. The only thing that Albert Fish claims to remember about his father is the nickname that his father gave him, Stick in the Mud, which I read that.
also read
heard
he had
it.
a nickname, Ham and Eggs.
Ham and Eggs was another nickname that was given to him by bullies, which he eventually changed his name to Albert Fish to get away from that childhood nickname. He was a supposed bedwetter, and after the father died, the mom did not have the resources to take care of all 4 of her children. Besides him, he had a sister, Annie Fish, and 2 brothers, Edwin Fish and Walter Winchell Fish. So the children were placed into an orphanage. The orphanage was St. John's Home for Boys in Brooklyn. And a quote from him that kind of segues into stuff that he experienced while at the orphanage is, "I was there till I was nearly 9, and that's where I got started wrong. We were unmercifully whipped. I saw boys doing many things they should not have done." So, while in the orphanage, one positive thing that might be kind of cool that I read is that he sang in the choir.
Oh,
So there's that.
you think he was singing religious songs? Because a lot of those
I don't think they
orphanages
had
were
a
like,
choice.
yeah, those orphanages were like heavy on the religious, and oh my god,
Oh, yes. Besides that, he was beaten by staff members and older boys at the orphanage. So this is said to be where his sexual pleasure from pain started. He would get erections while being beaten, which would further his torment. So the kids are like, "What the heck? Why are you pitching a tent while you're getting beaten?"
right?
And so then he would get more beatings, which gave him more erections, and it was just a cycle for him. He loved it, and everyone else probably thought it was freaking weird.
Yeah.
So he had also expressed that he experienced a sort of sexual awakening while witnessing some of the guardians of the orphanage whipping the younger boys and watching them do it. Another quote from him says, "Misery leads to crime. I saw so many boys whipped, it ruined my mind."
Wow. And I read that the caretakers, it also helped that the caretakers would strip the children naked in order to beat them. So that kind of added to his fantasy because he's seeing everything.
Everything, right.
Yeah. He loved it, I guess. So 4 years later, he spent a total of 4 years in the orphanage. So in 1878 or 1879, the mom, Ellen, got a job and was able to support the children and took them back. Unfortunately, the damage was kind of already done. But he did continue to administer his own beatings to himself using a nail-studded paddle that he DIY'd.
Was we supposed to laugh at that? 'Cause
Probably not. I don't know why again, guys, we always drinking. I don't even know why we all got a little chuckle out of that. But anyway.
I mean, he had to turn to his own devices once he was gone, and he wanted to continue to administer his own beatings, so
Right.
he made this paddle. At age 11, he started a relationship with a telegraph boy who introduced him to drinking urine and eating feces. And he had also started hanging out in bathing rooms so that he could see boys undress. It's also said around that time that he had fallen from a tree and suffered a concussion, which led to headaches, dizzy spells, and stuttering.
So he was like nanny ass. It was the headaches that made him do it.
sure.
Even though he was already well into his
right.
That
nastiness.
escalated it.
Yes. And then also around this time is where he had changed his name to Albert to get rid of that childhood nickname, Ham and Eggs. So, around the year 1890, at this time he's 20 years old, he moves to New York City with his mother. And this is where he said that he became a male prostitute and also started working as a painter, doing house painting. This is also around when he started molesting young children. And one theory that I have, we can get into later, is that this may have been when he started hurting people, killing people. 18 1898 is when he finally got married. I had read that he had 3 wives
Right.
in his life. 1898 was when he married Anna Mary Hoffman. They had 6 children together, so this was his longest marriage. But he still kept some boyfriends.
Yeah.
One
They had
of them-
4 boys and 2 girls. Just want to throw that random ass
This is the
information
marriage
out
that
there.
his mother arranged, though, right?
Yeah, the mother did. And so I will mention too, at that time he was 28 and Anna was 19. So the age gap wasn't as large as between his father and mother, but still she was a teenager.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of his boyfriends had taken him to a wax museum, and it was there that he saw a model of a dissected penis and became fascinated with genital mutilation. It is also said that when he started molesting children, hurting children, he would look for more vulnerable children, including intellectually disabled children and black children, thinking or figuring that the police would not look for them or care.
And poor children as well. He targeted poor children as well. And I mean, to some degree, he kind of was right.
Yeah, because
It worked. I mean, he got away with this for so long.
Yeah.
So long. 1910 is when he met one of his BFs, Thomas Kedden, was said to have also been intellectually disabled. They had a sadomasochistic relationship. Unsure if Thomas Kedden consented to this or how that actual relationship played out. On one particular day, they started having sex, and this led to Albert torturing Thomas. And this was said to have happened in a farmhouse. He trapped Thomas there and tortured him for a total of 2 weeks, and eventually cut off half of his penis.
Yeah. So I will mention too. Now the crimes are really thick, so y'all try to keep up with us. Just to do a recap, he seen the bisected penis when he went to the museum. He couldn't get that image off of his mind. So when he started this affair with mentally disabled Thomas Kedden, he took him to a farmhouse and tortured this young man for 2 weeks. Now, what I did not like is that a lot of the articles I read referred to him as his lover rather than his victim. And so that did kind of bother me a lot. But anyway.
But he was his lover first, though, right?
Yeah, but he was also mentally disabled, and he was 19.
Right.
So he still was a victim, and Fishy was manipulating this young boy.
Maybe it started off because it seems that Albert Fish kind of has a way of being able to lure people in,
Yeah.
seeming like this sweet
Uh-huh.
older guy.
He's very manipulative.
And once he's got you, he's got you. Later, Albert Fish had stated that he had planned to kill him, but ended up just bandaging the wound and gave him $10 before leaving.
So
We
imagine
don't know
that.
what happened to Thomas.
He cut off half of your penis, disinfected the wound, tossed you $10, and said, "All right, bye."
Go on your way. So he wasn't even worth the $40.
Oh, not the 40.
Sorry.
It's all right. These are very silent chuckles at this point. For those of you who get that joke, you're amazing. Yes. I did read a quote that Fishy did say, and he said, "I shall never forget his scream or the look he gave me when talking about Thomas and torturing him for 2 whole weeks." Now, I am surprised his long-suffering wife, she lasted this long, but by 1917, she decided to leave him for another man, leaving Fish to raise their 6 children, all on his own. Now, it is said that after she did leave, he began shoving needles in his groin, beating himself with a nail-studded paddle, eating raw meat, and stuffing wool covered in lighter fluid into his backside and setting it on fire.
Yeah, he would stick it like right up there and just light it on fire.
He also, interestingly, started, like, he never harmed his own children. I will say that. He had a lot of kids, but it never was reported that he harmed them. However, he would teach them sadomasochistic games and try to get them to cause harm to him. He also then started inviting them to eat his raw meat meals with him.
Right.
Like, y'all want some of this? And they're like, nah, daddy, we gonna cook it first. He then started carrying articles of cannibalism and drawing unwanted attention to himself. And I will say that he was arrested a few times before this point, but it was not for what you would think. He got arrested before because he would send obscene letters to women whose names he got from advertisements. And then also he was arrested for embezzlement. So, yeah. Not for child pornography, for beating children, not for harming kids, but it was for embezzlement and sending obscene letters to women back in the day.
I read he had got arrested for grand larceny too.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's
Nothing related to
nothing
the real
related
shit.
to what he needs to be arrested for. Right.
Right. But all of this was the reason why he was interviewed by a few mental health professionals. But he was always deemed disturbed but sane. So they were never able to keep him committed for more than a few weeks at a time.
When his wife left him with all 6 children, apparently it was with a handyman that also boarded with the family.
What?
It was with the handyman of
Not
the house.
the handyman.
The handyman.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's a T.
So she was like, you know what? I'll take the handyman. You can take the kids. I'm out.
I wonder if she started having more
Wasn't-
kids with him.
I
He was
wonder
real
if...
handy.
Do you think that the wife had to have known about all the sick shit he was into?
She
like,
had to.
was she just waiting to find an out?
I think so.
You'd think.
And it seems like because she was so young, it probably is one of those marriages she didn't have a say so in. Her dad probably sold her to his mother, and she was like, yeah, go ahead and marry my son. Because it was something that was organized by his mother. So she didn't even have a hand in that. She was looking for any way to get out. While it's not known exactly when he started killing, we assumed it was around 1919 in Georgetown, Washington. He stabbed a mentally disabled boy. Now, as we are all seeing, this is clearly a pattern that he had. He would convince children to come with him by offering money and or candy. Now, one of the strangest stories that I found, I'm sure you guys read this, he tried to lure 8-year-old Beatrice Keel away from her parents' farm by offering her money to help him to find rhubarb. And her mother caught him. I actually had to Google what the hell rhubarb was.
Really?
Yeah, I don't cook, so I was like, "What the fuck is that? Like a candy cane?" Like I don't know why it sounded like a candy cane. And I was like, "Oh, it's a plant." Like I didn't. Nobody told me
If you
shit.
boil it, put a bunch of sugar in it, it's really good over ice cream.
Oh,
And rhubarb strawberry pie is really good too.
Yeah.
oh shit, y'all! See, it blew my mind. I was like, "Oh, that's what rhubarb is." But he lured her away from her mother. Her mother thankfully caught him and shooed him away. Later that same day, he came back to the family's farm and attempted to sleep there. But this time, the father actually chased him away. He was so obsessed with his one child that he tried twice in one day to get her.
No shame.
Yeah.
Twice in one day.
Twice
Don't
in
even
one
have to
day.
play it cool. Like, just wait till the next day.
Give a grace period.
He want her.
So Albert was then able to get Francis McDonald away from his friends and into a wooded area. Once he lured him there, he strangled him with his own suspenders and cut up his legs and abdomen. Now, Fish did focus heavily on the right hamstring, so much so that he almost completely cut it off of the bone. He then left poor Francis hanging from a tree to later be discovered by a search party. He admitted that he planned to castrate the boy, but he got scared off when he thought he heard someone coming. Francis' friends actually described the man who took him as an elderly man with a gray mustache, hence the name the Gray Man. Now, after that 1926, he was suspected of murdering 3-year-old Emma Richardson. In 1927, 4-year-old Billy Gaffney was the next victim that we know about. Gaffney was playing in the hallway with his friend Billy Beaton when they both went missing. Now, he actually did steal both of the boys, but Beaton was eventually found hours later playing on the roof. He described the man who took Gaffney as the Boogeyman, which is a very fitting name, especially from the perspective of a child.
The police said the boogeyman took him.
Yeah.
Like, you got it right.
I mean, but he probably looked like a damn character to him. This old, first of all, you old. Why is you doing this? So he's probably like, you an old man.
Yeah.
Like, being mean, like you're the boogeyman.
Unsuspecting.
And his features were kind of sunken in because he was so frail.
Right.
So to a child, this is terrifying. The police didn't even take the child's testimony serious at first until some witnesses came forward admitting that they saw a child fitting the description of Gaffney, crying on the trolley with an older man. He was crying out for his mother.
Right.
Fish tried to keep the child quiet and eventually just pulled him off of the trolley with him. So sadly, Gaffney's body was never found, but Fish did admit to killing him, butchering, and eating the 4-year-old. Now, his full account on what he did to Gaffney was extremely disturbing, so we decided instead of reading the entire full, horrible, gory details, we'll read you a little section, and then you can Google and find the entire play-by-play of what he said he did on your own. But something we'll talk about later, I do feel he played up a lot of this for shock value, as he was known to fluff up some stories. Mata?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a little clip of the letter that he wrote regarding Billy Gaffney. He says, I took tools, a good, heavy cat-o'-nine-tails, homemade, short handle, cut one of my belts in half, slit these halves in 6 strips about 8 inches long. I whipped his bare behind till the blood ran from his legs. I cut off his ears, nose, slit his mouth from ear to ear, gouged out his eyes. He was dead then. I stuck the knife in his belly and held my mouth to his body and drank his blood.
Oof.
I picked up 4 old potato sacks and gathered a pile of stones. From here, he proceeds to talk about how he cut him up, threw some parts in the water, and then proceeds to go on about how he ate him, cooked and ate him.
Yeah. I'll be honest, when I first read that, I don't know. Because he also did a play-by-play of Grace, but it was something about the details from that one that really hit me.
He really got graphic.
Yeah.
He got
About Billy.
extremely graphic with the vegetables and all. Like, he got
Yeah.
very, very graphic.
Yes.
In 1927, that same year, he is suspected of killing 12-year-old Yetta Abramowitz, who he beat and strangled on the rooftop of the apartment she lived in. This man actually also had a name for his torture kit he used to kill and dismember his victims, and he called his weapons his implements of hell. That's what it was. It was his implements of hell. They looking at me like, girl, we don't know what the hell you talking about.
No,
I'm sorry,
I
y'all.
do remember that, but so he think he's Satan.
I wasn't sure of the exact
Yes.
words. Yeah.
Yes. And so in 1928, he lured 2 boys, one of which he had been molesting in his apartment by promising them sandwiches. Now, while the boys were there, they were wrestling and they bumped into the mattress, and underneath they saw a knife, a cleaver, and a saw. Rightfully so, this terrified the children, and they took off running. They got the hell out of Dodge. Thankfully, a few children were able to get away from him, but he was so smart and he moved a lot that he was able to actually avoid ever being captured. Again, he worked as a painter and a prostitute, so he was allowed to travel a lot for work. The following year, in May of 1928, Edward Budd was looking for work on a farm and released an ad. Fish saw the ad and planned on hiring Edward, tying him up and mutilating him. He arrived on May 28th after responding to the ad and agreed to hire Ed and his friend. He was supposed to send for them in a few days, but telegrammed them and let them know he was delayed. Now, once he actually arrived back to Ed's house, he met his younger sister, 10-year-old Grace, during that encounter, and he decided to take her instead. He brought them some strawberries and pot cheese. What the hell is pot cheese? Cheese made in a pot.
Hot
So
cheese.
like spreadable cheese? I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure. We could look it up.
I literally don't cook. I offered Rachel some hot dogs and Roman noodles yesterday. At my house. So, okay. But he offered some strawberries and some potted cheese from his farm. And he concocted a story about how he was going to his niece's birthday party, who was the same age as Grace. He asked if he could bring her along, and they agreed. Now, the mother was hesitant, but ultimately she was like, okay,
I
take
just
her.
don't understand. I do not understand.
This strange man waltzes into your home, and you let him take your child.
Right, and to go to a birthday party, I don't give a damn.
Yeah.
He had apparently also, quote unquote, tried to impress the family by taking out a wad of money from his pocket and
Wow.
asking Grace to count it for him. So she sat there counting the money, and the whole family's like, wow, he must have a lot of money, just kind
Yeah.
of giving them that first impression. Once she counted it, was something like $95 and some cents. 90
Right, but
something
that wasn't
dollars.
no red flag, like, at all to
And
you?
that also goes to how smooth and suave he was. Like, he was able to convince an entire family, let me take your child with you, your daughter, with me to this random birthday party.
Even though I'm coming for your son to supposedly help me with this damn yard work or whatever it was. That just
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, he just made that story up on the fly while he was there. You
Right, because he saw Grace was like,
You
oh,
think,
actually, I want
right.
Grace. I want the girl.
like, I thought you were here to pick up Edward,
Right.
not go to a birthday party.
And it was also because he was going to hire Edward and his friend. It was also claimed that he changed his mind when he realized, like, okay, Edward might beat my ass. I'm gonna go for somebody which would be an easier target.
Can't overpower
Yep.
them anymore.
So Fish actually ended up taking Grace to the same house he planned on taking her brother to torture him. He took off his clothes so that he would not get blood on them while the young girl picked flowers in the yard. He called her upstairs from a window, hid, and that's when he decided to torture her. So when he did not return with Grace in the evening, like he promised, the Buds contacted the police, of course. Now, Fish did a really good job. This man actually was smart. He did a good job at covering his tracks, and the police had nothing to go off. The address to the niece's house, of course, did not exist. The name he gave them, Frank Howard, of course, was a fake.
It's fake, right?
And he took back the telegram he sent them so that it could not be traced. Now, the detective on the case, King, he tried and kept coming to dead ends. He actually ended up charging a man, Charles Edward Pope, with the crime because of his ex-wife accusing him and Mrs. Budd picking him out of a lineup. This part of the story didn't make sense to me. So it said that Mrs. Budd later admitted she mistakenly picked him out of the lineup and he was released. Do you guys read any more information on that?
I did read that she claimed that she falsely identified him, or maybe at the time she thought that it was him, but I didn't read much more into it than that.
I didn't either.
Right.
But it makes sense because it wasn't him. So
So I'm just wondering, like, I wonder if the police kind of like coerced
It's very
her.
possible.
Jesus, y'all, I gotta stop drinking before we do this shit.
coerced
Coerced her.
Yeah.
statement.
Yes. So in 1930, he is suspected of killing 4-year-old Emil Alling, Robin Jane Liu, 6 years old, in 1931, Mary Ellen O'Connor, 16, and Benjamin Collins, 17, in 1932. Now, after that, in 1934, 6 years later, he decided to send a letter to Mrs. Budd about her daughter, the one he kidnapped, Grace.
Right.
That letter. My dear Mrs. Budd, in 1894, a friend of mine shipped as a deckhand on the steamer Tacoma, Captain John Davis. They sailed from San Francisco to Hong Kong, China. On arriving there, he and 2 others went ashore and got drunk. When they returned, the boat was gone. At that time, there was a famine in China. Meat of any kind was from $1 to $3 a pound. So great was the suffering among the very poor that all children under 12 were sold to the butchers to be cut up and sold for food in order to keep others from starving. A boy or girl under 14 was not safe in the street. You can go in any shop and ask for steak, chops, or stew meat. Part of the naked body of a boy or girl would be brought out and just what you wanted cut from them. I will skip down. Again, you guys can find all of the letters word for word on YouTube. So, he then says, several times every day and night, he spanked them, tortured them to make their meat good and tender. At this point, he's talking about his friend. First, he killed the 11-year-old boy because he had the fattest ass and, of course, the most meat on it. Every part of his body was cooked and eaten except the head, bones, and guts. He was roasted in an oven, all of his ass boiled, broiled, fried, stewed. The little boy was next, went the same way. At that time, I was living at 409 East 100th Street, rear, right side. He told me so often how good human flesh was, I made up my mind to taste it. On Sunday, June 3rd, 1928, I called on you at 406 West 15th Street. Bought you pot cheese, strawberries. We had lunch. Grace sat in my lap and kissed me. I made up my mind to eat her on the pretense of taking her to a party. You said yes, she could go. I took her to an empty house in Westchester I had already picked out. When we got there, I told her to remain outside. She picked wildflowers. I went upstairs and stripped all of my clothes off. I knew if I did not, I would get blood on them. When all was ready, I went to the window and called her. Then I hid in the closet until she was in the room. When she saw me naked, she began to cry and tried to run downstairs. I grabbed her and she said she would tell her mama. First, I stripped her naked. How did she kick, bite, and scratch? I choked her to death, then cut her into small pieces so that I could take the meat to my rooms, cook, and eat it. How sweet and tender her little ass was, roasted in the oven. It took me 9 days to eat her entire body. I did not fuck her, though. I could have, had I wished. She died a virgin. So y'all faces kind of say it all.
Can I have some more wine, please?
Yes, I think I'm going to cut myself off. His cockiness and pure evil intent that he sent to Mrs. Budd would be what eventually led to his arrest.
He was arrested December 13th, 1934. So that was literally just 6 years after he killed Grace. Okay? To me, this happens very, very quickly. Okay? He was arrested December 13th, 1934. And his trial was only 10 days long.
You want to talk about the letter first?
The letter?
Yeah. So what kind of got him caught? The capture of him?
So the letter actually is what got him caught. Because the letter was on some stationery. Mm-hmm. And the stationery was from the New York Private Chauffeurs Benevolent Association. And that piece of paper was from a janitor that lived at the rooming house with Fish.
His dumb ass sent the letter to the victims on stationery that could be identified.
Right. So he sent it on. I really was trying not to laugh, but he sent it on stationery like, hey, come and find me.
Mm-hmm. And they actually ended up checking the handwriting of 400 employees.
Yeah, so they eventually found out it was Fish and went to his place of residence and arrested him. How about this man? He wasn't belligerent or anything like that. He just went on along with the police. Like, he didn't deny anything. He didn't deny writing the letter. He didn't deny killing Grace.
Now, I will say, so Fish, he actually had checked out of the boarding house, but he would receive a monthly check from his son, right? So Detective King was like, I'm going to stay at the boarding house, I'm going to camp out, and I'm going to catch his ass. Now, tell me why he went through all of this just to almost not catch him. So on the day that he actually got arrested, on the 13th, like Rachel said, King ended up leaving the boarding house and going to the station. Once he left, Albert returned. And the actual owner of the boarding house was like, oh shit, he here, I'm gonna stall. So then King came out, guns out, like suns out, guns out. He's like, where he at? Pow, pow, pow. Right? So Fish is like, we cool, I'm gonna go with you. Pulled out a razor. Mm-hmm. King was able to actually subdue him very easily because, again, this man was old, he was frail.
He was, what, 65, 66, something like that? Yeah.
So King kind of laughed at him, was like, ha, pop, pop, and apprehended him right away.
Yeah.
Back to his trial. His trial was only 10 days long. Now, just listen to this timeline, though. So, he got arrested December 13th, 1934. Okay, so, New Year's is coming, in January. So, it was about a year, maybe. His trial was in March 11th through 22nd. Mm-hmm. Was not long at all. 4 psychiatrics testified against him, for the state. Mm-hmm. However, one of them did say that they felt like he was insane. He was insane then, and he's insane now. But in order to be proven insane, there's this McNaughton rule. And ever since Daniel McNaughton, a deranged workman, was acquitted of a 1843 murder in London by reason of insanity, the so-called McNaughton rule has been benchmarked of sanity in the American courtroom, and it reads as follows. To establish a defense on the ground of insanity, it must be clearly proved that at the time of committing the act, the party was laboring under such a defect of reason from disease of the mind as to not know the nature and quality of the act he was doing, or if he did not know it, that he did not know what he was doing was wrong. Okay. Only one psychiatrist said that Fish was insane, and Fish also said himself that he was insane because, I mean, you know, his childhood was absolutely unbearable. However, he was sentenced to death and he was executed, okay? And he was executed on January 16th, 1936. So that timeline is very, very short.
Yeah, they didn't waste any time.
They didn't waste no time. But this is what I want to say to y'all, though. He was convicted of Grace murder. He was not convicted of any other murder. Like, that's why he was in jail. That's why he was in the courtroom, because he was getting tried on the murder of Grace. He wasn't getting tried on any other murder. Now, even though he did admit to hundreds of them, if you let him tell it, he was only convicted of this murder. Yes, he was put to death and everything, but that's where is to me, in my opinion, is not fair. Yeah, he died and he was put to death, but it wasn't fair for the other victims. There was lots of other victims, but that's because he knew that they weren't going to be taken seriously because they were either black or they were poor or mentally disabled.
The only three that were like for sure proven were Grace Budd, Francis McDonald, and Billy.
Right.
Yep.
So after the jury, you know, deliberated, their deliberation was literally for 4 hours. I mean, I would have deliberated for 4 minutes, honey, because you're guilty.
Right.
But this is what Fish had to say after the jury's verdict. What a thrill that would be if I have to die in the electric chair, he beamed. It would be the supreme thrill, the only one I haven't tried. But then his mood shifted and he goes, but it wasn't the right verdict. I'm not really sane, you know. That's what he said.
Damn right you're not. But
I don't
But
know.
he
I don't
didn't
believe that
deserve
he's
to be
insane.
treated.
I do not believe that he's insane at all.
I mean, to inflict that level of pain on yourself, though, like he put 29 rusted nails into his own groin.
he stuck needles in his groin and abdomen.
So it's like, to inflict that level of pain, something off up there.
I mean, he may be off, but he's not insane. He killed the girl and then wrote her mother a letter years later, letting her know what he did.
Right. I also
That's
know
not
that
insanity.
Yeah, what
Fish-
constitutes insanity?
right.
You know?
And he was really good at lying and manipulating people. Like, he was very, very smart. He did all this shit intentionally, and a lot of his claims were not proven. So he knew what he was fully aware of what the fuck he was doing.
He was very aware, and that's why I don't. No, you're not insane. You crazy as hell. Yes, you do have a problem, but you're not insane, though.
Oh,
You
right.
knew exactly what you were doing.
So to say insanity, it includes you don't exactly know that you're doing something wrong.
And you remember,
just-
you can recollect everything that you did.
And one of the
looks back at it fondly.
right, one of the therapists even said
Very
that
fondly.
he had
Like,
a
you wrote a
psychopathic
letter.
personality without a psychosis. Like, even the therapists are like, he a different kind of crazy, but he ain't crazy.
Right, he did have to go to he was committed to Bellevue, the New York Psychiatric Hospital in 1930. However, he was released to be fit to live in society. Like, yes, you have a problem, but you're not insane. You knew exactly what you were doing to these children.
Right.
And you picked out certain kids so that you wouldn't get caught. That is to me, you were damn near genius doing that shit.
It was
The way you did
calculated.
it.
Right. And why we say, like, the number of kids that he actually ended up abusing is not known, but he used to joke that he had a child in every state.
Every state, yes.
And while the number's not known, the number that I seen to be kind of common was 3 to 9 victims. That seemed to be about the average number that people are saying. Like, I think it was 3. So it's anywhere from 3 to 9. In every state, no. Did you see anything about his attorney, the Jack Dempsey guy, and what he wanted him to do? Did y'all see that?
Dempsey, Dempsey was trying his best to make this man look like he was insane.
And he was his attorney.
Right. He tried his best. Well, because after all, how else was he going to get him off?
Right.
How else was he going to get him off? So he tried it,
Right.
and that was his only defense. He's talking about something, the Bellevue case really says something here, guys. Like, no, it don't, Dempsey. Okay, the man is crazy, but he's not insane.
Mm-hmm. And Fish, he clearly wanted to live on forever and kind of like haunt everyone's dreams for years to come. So what he actually did was he would write notes while he was awaiting his
lawyer
execution.
refused. He refuses to this day, like to reveal what he wrote.
Those.
He wrote. Fish caught himself writing out these damn notes, like after he was convicted and all that. While he was waiting to be, put to death.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote a bunch of notes. Like I think it was like hundreds. Dempsey said of like everything that he had ever did to everybody, including all these children or whatever. And he was just like the stuff that he wrote in the letters were so gruesome. He said he would never let anybody read what that man wrote.
And his actual quote, he said, "I will never show it to anyone. It was the most filthy string of obscenities that I have ever read." It was too disturbing, the notes that he wrote. Dempsey never wanted them to see the light of day.
So do you think that he was exaggerating as far as what he did to these children? You think he was exaggerating?
Not to all of them, but I definitely think he did a lot of things for shock value. That's the whole reason why after he got caught, he was like, I'm going to write out all of these horror stories. My lawyer going to present it to the world, and I'm going to go down as the most terrifying serial killer ever at all times. He wanted notoriety.
Right.
So I think he lied a lot.
He loved the attention that came with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that he probably did a lot of those things. However, he really kind of glammed it up for himself, so that he seemed even more evil. He was already evil, but he really liked to portray himself as absolutely
more evil.
Right.
Yes.
Way more evil than
Because he
I
could have
don't
easily
think he
came
was
out and
lying.
said, like, I killed 9 kids and I ate them. But to go on and be like, I killed a kid in every state. Like, clear, come on now.
to go
ain't even gotta
on
lie.
how you ate them, how you cooked them, like
Like, he'd always put a little
trying to
extra
get
on
your
something
own
like,
show. Like,
Right.
what is your goal here? Yeah, and I have another quote from him that just kind of shows how, I don't know what the word is, just delirious.
Oh, okay.
he was. How he liked to paint himself. I can read it. It's a story from when he was at the orphanage, and then he kind of turns it around, and you'll see. I'll read it. Okay. I am a man of passion. You don't know what that means unless you are my kind. At the orphanage where they put me, just before Garfield was assassinated, there were some older boys that caught a horse in a sloping field. They got the horse up against a fence down at the bottom of the field, tied him up, an old horse. They put kerosene on his tail and lit it, and cut the rope. Away he went, that old horse, busting through fences to get away from the fire, but the fire went with him. That horse, that's me. That's the man of passion. The fire chases you and catches you, and then it's in your blood. And after that, it's the fire that has the control, not the man. Blame the fire of passion for what Albert Herbert Fish has done. Yup.
It's a crazy man who was not aware of what he was doing, right? Now, I don't think you got to answer. Do
No,
you think
hell
he was
no.
lying?
No, I don't. I think he did do a lot of what he said he did. I mean,
That quote was deep.
of course, we're not gonna know for sure, but I just don't see how. I just don't see the reason in lying about any other death, any other gruesome thing you did to these children. I mean, we know what you did to Grace because you wrote the letter or whatever. The little boy was found. You know what I'm saying? So I don't get why he would lie about anything else.
He liked attention.
Yeah, he
He
did.
was an attention whore.
And since
I mean, but he got what he wanted. We talking about him.
Right.
All
And
this time later.
I was thinking, especially since a lot of the victims are people that may or may not have been searched for, he could make up all this stuff. Like, there's a possibility there. Do I think he made it up? No, but I think there's definitely a window there where he could.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, some would even argue today that these same children that he targeted, they're not given that same level of concern and respect. So their disappearance and abuse, it's not handled the same way with care. So it's easy for them to be forgotten. So sadly, if he is lying, we will never know. Or if he's telling the truth.
I want to know like why he felt so bad for Grace.
I think he was obsessing with her, and so he
to
wanted
send
to
that letter
torture
about
his
her.
mom. He wanted to torture her mom. I'm sorry. So I think that was more so again about him controlling the situation. He wanted to torture the family long after.
Right. He was probably thinking back like, that was a good one. What more can I do to get some more pleasure out of this? Oh, let me torture the family a bit.
Because usually he would
And write them a
lure
letter
he would lure the kids
of
away
detail.
from their family.
Right.
He actually formed a connection with that family. So that family knew exactly who he was. And he's like, this is the only family that actually knows me. The other kids, he like would like, hey, get this candy. Come here. Come on. But he actually got a connection with that family. It's like, I can haunt these people for the rest of their lives. And they'll
Right.
never be able to catch me. Cocky
Because
son
he
of a
was there
bitch.
for a few days. Because he went there in what, like May 28th or something like that, May something.
Then he left and came back.
Talk. Right. So you know, it was some days later because it was June 3rd. You know, that's when he got Grace.
Yeah.
Just on a lighter note, I looked up pot cheese. It's
Go ahead, Christina, hit it.
it's a variation of cottage cheese with a larger curds and a thicker consistency.
Oh.
That sounds disgusting.
I like cheese. It was
And so he was proud to be bringing him that damn cheese.
And strawberries. Don't forget the
Cottage
strawberries
cheese.
now.
I mean, I guess it would be good with the strawberries.
The gas
though.
cottage cheese.
Right.
Yeah. And it came all the way from a farm. They probably ain't had that level of cheese.
Do you think he
quality in a
really
while.
got it from a
Hell
farm? He
no,
probably got it
stole
from a
on the
He
way
store.
there.
stole that shit.
I'm like, he stole it on the way. If he got it from a farm, it was not his farm. Yeah.
Lying ass.
I'm pretty sure one of the detective, as they were trying to catch this dude, was that they
King,
tried
yeah.
to track down where the strawberries and the pot cheese came
Yep,
from, and they
he
tracked it
did.
to a store. So he definitely lied about the.
I got this from the
cheese.
farm. Took the barcode off right before he got here. 39 cents.
Puts it in a basket.
Right. Fucking fish. Now, I realize this episode was not the easiest maybe to listen to. Clearly, it was not easy for me. I got tongue-tied a lot. Anytime there's children involved, it's quite difficult and it's very heavy for me. It's something I have to get a little bit more comfortable with, something I'm going to challenge myself with on talking about. But I am kind of pleased with the results, I guess, with him. I mean, this man was, the reason I say kind of is because he was able to live out his full life. And he inflicted a lot of pain and suffering on children before he was ever caught. So it's like, at that point, even though he got executed, was justice really served?
And see, that's what my point was. He got convicted for Grace. Mm-hmm. For Grace Budd's death. He didn't get convicted for anybody else's death.
There's a lot of victims
So,
that.
yeah, he got put to death, and yeah, he died. I mean, what more can you possibly do? You can't kill him twice. But, I mean, they didn't get the justice that they were supposed to get because they didn't get a trial.
Right.
They didn't get a trial. Grace got a trial. And the other children and other victims, you know, whoever he did anything to, they didn't get a trial. But he was put to death. And so what more can you do?
I wonder if that's going to be like a common theme we find throughout this podcast, because even with Nanny Doss, they didn't convict her of any other murders. They focused on the one
was the last
husband.
one.
The one
Yeah.
husband, right?
Yeah. So, as I stated last week, at the end of every episode, we will have a cold-hearted question for our listeners. So, to make sure we don't end on such a heavy note, let's bring the mood back up. Ladies, if you had to prepare a horrible, vile waste of human flesh for consumption, how would you prepare any body part, organ, you name it, and make it sound appetizing? My cannibals in the house. What you got?
I really love pork skins.
Okay.
So I'm going to just rip your skin off, clean, excess blood and fat and stuff. And then, cut it and fry it.
Okay.
But I also thought about doing some human chitlins.
You know what? It's the most country ghetto show. Okay, human chitlins.
With the large intestine and the small intestine.
With a little hot sauce.
With a little hot
Ooh,
sauce.
and some bread. Okay. I feel it. Cannibal Mata, what you got?
I was thinking of busting out the old grill or a smoker. Get some human ribs up in there.
I
Cut
thought
that
about
out.
ribs.
Yeah.
I love ribs.
Okay.
Smoke them.
So you going to smoke the ribs?
Yeah.
Is going to be some sauce?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely do a few layers of like barbecue sauce. Let it
a
kind of caramelize.
few layers of barbecue.
Yeah. Let it caramelize and then
Gotta
put some
dump it
more
on
on
there.
there. Rotate it. Let it
Sweet
get a
Ways
nice-
barbecue.
That sounds kind of
Sweet
good.
Baby Ray's.
It do.
It's barbecue.
So I got two. One of them is for a long drive in the middle of summer. Finger popsicles. Okay. So
Oh.
you're going to cover them with like a strawberry puree, and then you put them in lemonade and you let them freeze, right? So then you got a finger strawberry lemonade popsicle. You just lick it, you got to bite into it. You just tasting the flavor.
It's just the stick.
Yeah, the finger is the stick. Exactly. See,
Oh
then
my
you're not
God.
even really eating it. You just licking lemonade and strawberry. Okay, Rachel, I like
That
that
was a
one.
cop out.
It was. Okay, this one is not, though. I got you with this one. A rolled spicy eyeball. All right, so here it is. So,
Delicacy.
it is, right? So you take the eyeball and you dump it in panko crumbs. I just learned what panko crumbs was like 2
nice.
weeks ago. I'm excited, right? And then you crush up some flaming hot Cheetos and you roll those on the top. Okay, and then you're gonna bake them and you eat them with a pickle on the side. All right, so this is a childhood hood rat recipe. Throughout high school, we'd eat a pickle, a big old pickle with either red Kool-Aid, or we bite the top off and we stuff hot Cheetos inside of it. So anytime you're eating any type of hot Cheeto mix, you gotta eat it with a pickle on the side. Okay,
That sounds good.
it is. And if you're our age, I mean, of course, eat this with caution with some Tums around, but yes, the eyeballs, and you roll them with the panko crumbs and some crushed up flaming hot Cheetos with a pickle for the crunch and the sweet.
So is you going to fry this?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
You gotta fry. You gotta have that crunch. And it's a little pop inside because eyeballs got a lot of liquid and shit inside, I'm assuming.
I think so.
Maybe you can drain it.
When they bake, some of that might
Ooze out.
yeah.
We're
This
gonna
is
bake
so
them
damn
instead.
disgusting.
Don't fry them, y'all. Bake. I mean, okay.
Or you could do
don't
a bit
fry
of
'em.
like a surprise. You could do some deep fried pickles with the
Do
deep fried
a bit of
eyeballs
a
in there,
surprise.
and then you never know what you're gonna get.
Exactly. See, Christine, give me some, girl. She into it. Rachel over this. Me and Christina having fun, okay?
I'm so done.
Listeners, make sure
Oh
you
my
leave us
God.
comments and tell us if you had to. And remember, this is only the most vile of human waste. If you had to consume someone who was being very vile, think of Albert Fish if you had to. If you had to prepare Albert Fish, how? And again, we're doing the world a favor by doing this. We're getting rid of him. Okay? Yeah, I think it's fair. Eye for an eye, literally. Okay.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
As always, thank you for rocking with us for episode 2 of Blood Sisters Podcast. Please, again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube and Facebook pages. You can find them under Blood Sisters with a Z, because we classy, educated broads like that, okay? Feel free to also hit us up in our email with suggestions on serial killers you've always been fascinated with or would love for us to cover. Or if you feel like we've missed some things on Albert Fish, we're always open to learning more. Or we maybe messed some things up. Let us know in the comment section.
There's a ton on him. And there's always a possibility to get something a little goofy, get some dates messed up. So definitely hit us up.
because I found some conflicting stuff, but I didn't want the podcast to be too long, so I was just like, we're just gonna wait and we'll talk to y'all in the comment section. There was a lot that happened on him, but feel free to hit us up on our social media, or again, you can always email us at whattheblood2020@gmail.com. All right, as always, I am Natasha Carr with
Christina Mata.
Rachel Thompson.
Flirting with darkness and promoting weird brown girl joy. Until next time.
Peace.
Boom, boom, chicka.